Moose, here we go.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday. It's March 7th. You're smiling. Hair looks nice today, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Did you just get a cut?
Last week.
All right.
Yeah.
Yesterday you were playing with it a bunch. You were on your hair, braggadocious feelings. You were rocking out with me and Sharapan, bald
Yes,
then.
a
So
little
you
bit.
were just,
Yes, for
letting
sure.
it flow. Speaking of letting it flow, NFL money is starting to flow around. We had the Derek Carr signing. Essentially, we knew it was happening yesterday while we were on there. And now we do know that it's 4 years, can be up to $150 million. I think we need to figure out what that means for the market for Daniel Jones. Then you get Geno Smith, 3 years, 105, 52 million is going to be upfront in the first year. What does that mean for Daniel Jones? And today is tag day. And of course, we can dive into a bunch of NBA stuff as well. How are you this morning?
I'm great. I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
I mean, I'm terrible.
Yeah, tough Hofstra loss.
Terrible. Absolutely. I know that it's not a
Semifinals.
national story, but can we start there? Are you okay with that?
Sure.
You can't lose that game. They shouldn't have lost that game. They were the better team. They are the better team. They have the better player.
Not last night.
Ugh.
Not last night. They weren't the better team.
I know. So frustrating.
That's a terrible loss.
So frustrating. So we're out for dinner last night for Jody.
I feel bad.
Thank you. And you were texting me. Yeah.
I was texting you. You were out for your birthday dinner for your lovely wife.
Yes. So we were having a nice dinner. It was this place called the Hilltop up in like Syosset area on Long Island. And it's got like a New York, it's supposed to feel like you're in New York City, like a New York City style feel to it. So we're in like sort of a back room area, but the bar is over there. So we can see the TVs. Now, Austin, my 12-year-old, and I, like, we had our phones on the table, but we're at dinner. We're not being, disrespectful. We're having a nice birthday dinner, but he kept paying attention to the scores. And then with about 5 minutes left, Jody was like, you guys can pay attention to the game. It's okay. We're like, all right. So Austin goes over to the bar and asks if they could put CBS Sports Network on one of the TVs. So they did it for us. We ended up going back and forth watching the final 2.5 minutes, and then obviously watching overtime. And it was not great. Texted a little bit with Speedy Claxton this morning. He's obviously disappointed, but he's proud of his guys. Yeah. So we're all of our Hofstra fan base. We're very proud of that team.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, unfortunately, going into it, it's a one bid league. I mean, that's it. And when you look at your conference, similar to what Patino's talked about with Iona, as he said a couple weeks ago, he hates being in a one bid league, but that's the story of really the mid major until you develop and become like kind of a national brand, like Gonzaga did under Mark Few, where you raise the recruiting level, you become a perennial top 20, top 15 team each and every year. You're going out there and you're scheduling very, very difficult out of conference games. You are, more often than not, you're victorious in those games. That it's very, very difficult to go out there and do. And unfortunately, that's the world that Hofstra's in, and that's the world that Iona's in locally, and many teams across the country. I mean, until Wichita State developed into one of those national brands for a while there, when they had Fred VanVleet running the point. They were part of basically a one bid conference. But yeah, it stinks. I mean, locally here, I mean, other than busting your chops a little bit, I felt bad for everybody and for Speedy. Had an unbelievable regular season, and second half they just looked they had no legs.
Yeah.
I mean, they just didn't. They weren't getting to the rebounds they normally do. They looked exhausted down the stretch of the game. The game goes to overtime, and the
Jaquan Carlos 3-pointer that went in and out. I mean, like, that could not have gone further in without going in.
No, I know. It was it's a tough way to lose. It really is.
Yeah, it is. But we move on, and hopefully Hofstra gets invited into the NIT, and maybe we'll get.
I think you'll get into the NIT, yeah, for sure. But you want to get part of the dance. I mean, that's it. I mean, and Yeah, for sure. And every guy on that team wanted to, and Coach Claxton wanted to, and everybody that's ever attended Hofstra wanted to. It's a tough way for it to lose, and you don't even get to the championship game tonight. It's just, it is what it is. When you go into it, despite how good of a regular season you have, you've got to win the conference tournament in order to get into the NCAA tournament. It's unfortunate.
Yep, very unfortunate. All right. How do we segue out of this without me crying? No, I'm just kidding. All right, so Derek Carr is
Did you cry?
No crying.
No
Derek
crying?
Carr is a saint. No, I'm not crying. I actually don't cry over sports. I won't cry over sports. No, I've never cried over a sporting event.
In your entire life, even when you were a kid?
I mean, maybe when I was 6. No, the joke always was that Keith was the kid that even if he made an error.
But you're an emotional guy.
Wasn't. I never was. Nope, I never was.
But you are now.
I'm 42 years old.
But you're an emotional guy. You're not
now,
in touch with your emotions.
Now, I would say that I was not like, so I didn't cry.
Angry and disappointed after the Eagles lost the Super Bowl.
I mean, disappointed.
Oh, come on. Then you're not really a fan. You had to be disappointed.
I was disappointed, but I'm not.
I'm not disappointed angry. After that. You're drinking Diet Cokes. You're pounding Doritos.
The Diet Cokes were good. The Doritos.
Yeah,
were good
I understand.
Too.
You're really cutting loose that day. You're working on your abs pregame. You had to be disappointed that day when the Eagles lost. You've never cried over a sporting event?
No, especially not one that I didn't play in.
That's stunning.
No, I've never cried over a sporting event that I've never played in. And I can't remember crying over a sporting event, which means the last time I probably cried over a sporting event, maybe I was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong, but no, I just.
With your emotions.
No. There's way too. Listen, you know why I won't cry over a sporting event?
Why is that?
I didn't do anything wrong.
It has nothing to do. It's just being disappointed.
I couldn't have helped them win.
It's just being disappointed would be the case. Yeah, I don't know. That surprises me because you're an emotional guy, but
I've become more of an emotional guy over the last couple of years. Like I've said this before. I'm gonna guess that you did. I did not cry when my children were born.
Oh, no doubt.
No, I didn't. No, I don't cry for that. No, I was happy. I was happy that I had children.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I think it's. Listen, I think what Val Vano had to say in that famous speech that he had when he was unfortunately dying of cancer, talking about, when you cry, you laugh, you have a full day, every single one of those days. And yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's, when my kids were born, for sure, it was tears of joy. I mean, to see your son or daughter for the first time and to see the unbelievable, just love that you have at the instant that you first lay eyes on them. It's just something that it's impossible to describe to somebody unless you go through it.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. But when you do go through it, you're changed forever. So I mean, of course I did. Yeah. I mean, I've shed tears of disappointment when, when something's happened with any of my sons or anything like that. I've shared tears of joy when that's happened. So yeah, listen, I'm an emotional guy. I talked about it time and time again. When Washington would lose to the Giants growing up, for sure, I'd be a blubbering mess. I'd be disappointed. But to each his own. It's all good. I'm surprised because you're an emotional guy, but
I really didn't become very emotional.
I misjudged that.
No, the last couple of years, with unfortunately losing loved ones, that actually got me more emotional. But no, I was never. I would say, up until about 3-4 years ago, crying was not a thing for me. It's not something I do, not something I did. Now I'm definitely more emotional with that stuff, again, losing a few loved ones, unfortunately, over the last couple of years. But yeah, all right. So if Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback for the New York Jets next year, are you crying?
No, I think it would be a disaster for the Jets. but I wouldn't be
I was just trying to segue it into sports. And Baby J, by the way, yes. That I guess that is, I don't know, whatever. Baby J.
Yeah,
right, I got you.
What did Baby J? That's the Puerto Rican. You keep talking. I know. What does that mean?
Are you trying to say the Puerto Rican does cry or does not cry, Baby J?
I have no idea. I'm not sure what exactly Baby does not. I got
does
you.
not. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah.
Is your dad an emotional guy?
Not at all. I mean,
Not at
he's
all.
no, like I don't. I've never
Does your
seen
dad have brothers.
A lot of them, yeah.
Okay, are any of them emotional? Like, are they no?
None of them cry.
Okay, all right, yeah.
No, I don't think I don't think I've ever seen my father cry.
Yeah, like I could listen. I cry. There was an emotional scene in Top Gun Maverick, and I was watching with Jackson, and I brought back memories of the first Top Gun, and I started to well up.
Yeah.
And Jackson looked over at me. He goes, "Are you crying?" I go, "Yeah, it's a little emotional. This is a very touching scene."
Could you imagine if Jackson would have been like, "Snap out of it, Dad"?
That is such a true story, Baby J. That is such a true story. When he looks back and he thinks of Goose and he's talking to Rooster and that's his dad and Goose died and they do the flashback. Yes, I got emotional. There are movies where I'll be watching, like when I had a different schedule and I watched like one of those drippy movie, like sappy movies during the course of the day, there'd be times where I'd be weeping.
Just go watch A Walk to Remember if you wanna cry, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And like that, she was gone.
A Walk to Remember, very good. I watched this. I couldn't even tell you the name of the movie. It was like a terrible sappy love movie, about true love and how they never then really connected in life, and it was kind of like two passing ships always, and it was sad. Like when you think about what was the movie that Tom Hanks was out on the island all by himself?
Castaway.
Wilson. Yeah, okay. The Notebook, very emotional, but Castaway, when he comes back,
yeah,
and he goes and sees his wife.
Spoiler alert. Just kidding.
Well, come on, the movie's like 25 years old. But the point being is, comes back and sees his wife, and his wife has started a new life and is remarried and has kids, and all he did was keep that locket with her picture of it to help him keep him going.
Kept him going.
It was such an emotional, gut-wrenching scene. Like
so
I was so tears.
Yeah. Hey, so let's put this out there. Let's have some fun with this. Do you think the people that view our show right now cry more over movies and TV shows or over sports? What do you think?
Oh, I probably movies and TV shows.
Can we put up poll? Let's since we opened the show with this conversation, and we could also. I would love if you guys call in
during the Titanic. I no doubt, Baby J, absolutely.
No, if
she's holding on to Jack's hand.
Stupid. She's the biggest villain in the history of movies.
Oh, stop.
Rose is the worst.
No, she's not.
Worst.
She is not.
Name me a bigger villain. She's on this stupid piece of wood. She could have shared time with him. She could have gotten in the water.
The wood would have sunk. Body weight.
No. Alternate. No, so she's on it. After a little bit of time, he gets a little hypothermia. Let's switch. He could be here.
You get hypothermia, there's no way to
so they lose an arm or a leg. She's the worst.
No, she's
amazing. Rose is the biggest villain in the history of movies. Selfish.
And she sees him disappear into the dark ocean.
Selfish. The chat is agreeing with me on this.
Reaching for her.
You ever hear the theory? that he didn't exist?
Oh, stop.
That it was all fake?
No, it's not fake.
Jack didn't exist.
Well, the story's not real, but it was a great movie. James.
Everyone in the chat is with me on this one. So call in, guys. Tell us the movies or TV shows that you always cry about, like the things that always get you. And then I don't know if Ernie and
we should do a poll.
Ernie and the boys behind. What do you want to do? Do you want to do a poll about? Do you want to make it? What makes you cry more?
What makes you cry more? Sporting events or movies and TV shows?
Yeah. All right. Let's throw that poll up. Let's have some fun with that.
Yeah.
Oh
so you're talking about the Jets. What about the Jets?
They're going to make you cry. No, listen, if you believe in Trey Wingo, and Trey Wingo has a lot of connections in this industry, in this field, he claims that the Jets and Aaron Rodgers are talking. If the Jets and Aaron Rodgers are talking, that leads you to believe that the Packers are saying okay to Aaron Rodgers, that you can talk to the Jets. If 2 + 2 does equal 4, that would lead you to believe that something is in the works here.
Yeah, like I said it yesterday, and I know it's very, very difficult to do. I'm actually going to trust in the Jets.
I know you were funny when you said it yesterday.
No, I do think that the fact that they chatted with Carr. They had another meeting last week in Indianapolis with Derek Carr, where the owner Woody Johnson was part of that meeting. At the news that Derek Carr initially was leaning toward the Jets, and then he signs up with the Saints. I'm just going to connect the dots. Like we've been working in sports for a long, long time, and I know it's difficult to do, and I understand that Aaron Rodgers is a tricky guy to kind of pin down in terms of what's going through his mindset, if not impossible. No one has any idea of what exactly is going through the mindset of Aaron Rodgers. But with all of that being said, I'm going to go on the idea that the Jets like Carr a lot. Carr liked the Jets. Obviously, there was a conversation that being had that, clearly then Carr transitioned and went to the New Orleans Saints and got paid a ton of money. 4 years, $150 million with $100 million guaranteed. Good for Derek Carr. And now he goes to a very, very easy division in the NFC South. And clearly right now, as we sit here on this Tuesday morning, he's the best quarterback in that division.
And they are the odds-on favorite, the Saints, now to win that division at +130.
Right. So the Jets have been linked to Aaron Rodgers for the better part of 7 to 8 weeks, right? There's been that connection. They've already reached out to Green Bay. You get the stories coming out of the combine that kind of that go along with the stories coming out of Green Bay that the Packers would prefer to move on from Aaron Rodgers. When Brian Gutekunst last week was asked by Packers reporters about whether or not Aaron Rodgers was in the Packers' plans, he said, "We haven't had those conversations yet," but also went on to say that Jordan Love is ready to play.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rodgers is guaranteed all of this money. You know that Rodgers is to be at his level, even though sometimes he could rub some people the wrong way, you have to be a very, very competitive person. He's been asked, obviously, about the Jets, position players and where the Jets are as an organization. They've been hunting for Rodgers for a while here. They let Carr go without, going back and forth because they're still holding out hope. I would have to think that the Jets have a pretty good idea that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet in 2023.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not telling you I have any inside information. I'm just kind of connecting the dots with everything that we've heard here. The fact that the Jets have already reached out to Green Bay about Aaron Rodgers. The Trey Wingo report this morning that the Jets have spoken with Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to go on the idea that they're not going to be left holding the bag here. That it's not going to be Baker Mayfield. It's not going to be, even though, the general manager down in Tennessee gave him a vote of confidence, it's not going to be Ryan Tannehill. It's not going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not going to be Taylor Heineke. It's not going to be Carson Wentz. It's not going to be any of that.
Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew. Right. It's not going to be. I'm actually going to trust in the Jets. I'm actually going to believe that they have an idea here because the pressure is on when the owner comes out. Keith, here's another angle to it as well. When the owner comes out immediately after the season and talks about the fact of how motivated, it wasn't about Zach Wilson. It was a case of we're going to go get a veteran quarterback. The NFL honors that Wednesday or Thursday night before the Super Bowl, he was on the red carpet, was asked a similar question. We would have been a playoff team if we had any semblance of quarterback play, consistent quarterback play, paraphrasing now during the course of the regular season. The pressure's on Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh to go get themselves a veteran quarterback. And Woody Johnson is all in. If you're Aaron Rodgers, why would you not be interested in a team that we have always talked about how, based on the talent that is already on the roster, how attractive Rodgers or another veteran quarterback would be to this organization, even with all of their myriad of failures in the past, based on the talent that's on the roster right now.
And we also are going under the assumption that the Packers are not going to want to trade Aaron Rodgers within the NFC.
Well, so if going on the initial report, where
right. If the NFC is off the table, that cuts half of the league off of the table. If you look at the AFC, there's really only two teams that have a spot for him. It's the Raiders, it's the Jets. And if you're Aaron Rodgers, while Devontae Adams, I think, is a very attractive player to be able to play with, because you're already throwing touchdowns to him. You know he's one of the 2, 3, 4 best wide receivers in all of the NFL. The Jets are built to win. And the Bills, while they're excellent, showed some flaws last year. Miami doesn't even know if they have a QB. They're really unsure of their situation, and I don't believe in the Patriots' abilities to get that much better that quickly. The Jets are built to win. The Jets are built to make the playoffs. The Jets are built to make a run in the playoffs, and all they're missing is Aaron Rodgers. And for all the people that say that Aaron Rodgers can't handle the New York media, I mean, most people can't handle the New York media. Like, a lot of people struggle with that. Aaron Rodgers has a curmudgeonly feel about him sometimes, the holier than thou, this I am smarter than you. But if they're winning games, it won't matter. That's all it is. And if they're losing games, then it's stunk. Then they whiffed on Rodgers anyway, and it won't matter that way either.
Yeah, and I'm gonna right. And so I'm just gonna go. Everything you just said is 100% correct. And I do think that Trey Wingo, with all the time that he worked in the at ESPN, cover the National Football League, has got some pretty good sources around the National Football League. I don't think Trey Wingo is going to just throw something out there without having some sort of direct knowledge that exactly happened. And it would just make too much sense. I mean, the idea that the Jets have remained their number one target is Aaron Rodgers. Derek Carr didn't want to wait. They already contacted Green Bay. Green Bay, by all accounts, would prefer to move on from Aaron Rodgers. You would have to believe that the Jets would get the clearance from Green Bay to say, okay, can we chat with the quarterback so we can figure out if exactly this is a spot where he wants to land? Because if it's not, we'll move on. So all of this kind of connects it to where, if you were a Jet fan irate yesterday that Derek Carr was a New Orleans Saint, I think you can feel pretty good that, like I've said all along, I really haven't backed down on it. I think Rodgers is going to be a Jet. I really do. Like, I think Derek Carr was, if Rodgers came out of that bungalow that, under earth, and said, I don't want to play football anymore, then the Jets would have moved on to Derek Carr. As long as Aaron Rodgers wants to play football, and I think he does, because it gives him this platform. I think Rodgers wants to prove a lot of people wrong. I think he's going to be playing quarterback in Jersey next year for the New York Jets.
Yeah. Barring anything catastrophic, I am with you. And I actually think that what you said yesterday, I think you said that a deal would be done by, what'd you say, like March 15th? Yes. That was your date? I tend to lean to your side now. I thought it was going to be a little bit longer, and obviously I don't think they can officially make that deal.
No, they can't announce it until like June 1st.
But
but there's so many things, number one, that need to be worked out here, where I've got to have an understanding if the quarterback is interested in my team. Because if he's not, then I'm going to move on. But I got to, number one, I got to see if he's interested. Number two is he's already been open to the idea of, he knows he has to restructure his contract. So I've got to have that understanding as well. And then number three is, I've got to figure out what exactly the compensation is going to be and what it would cost me to go get Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers. And he controls where exactly he wants to go. Outside, the Packers will never, as you mentioned, I mean, they're never going to trade him to an NFC team. They don't want to see him. They don't want to see him in the same conference, so they'll trade him to the AFC. So there's a number of factors that come into play to where, if you're in the National Football League, they do due diligence on the 53rd guy on the roster. You best believe that the Jets are doing their due diligence on whether or not Rodgers. And there's been too much of a drumbeat, a consistent drumbeat, where you've never gotten off that path. The path has always been, we want Aaron Rodgers. So it's never been a case of, well, they met with Derek Carr because they're giving themselves options, because as an organization, it just makes sense to give yourself some options. But with Carr signing with the Saints yesterday, like I'm going to trust in the Jets that they end up with Rodgers. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, the elephant in the room is, what does Baltimore do today, right, with Lamar Jackson? If they go exclusive tag and they're going to pay him the $45 million, I think the belief is they're in the Lamar Jackson business for the long haul. They go non-exclusive, it's the lower money and the fact that a team like the Jets, if they wanted to, could swoop in and could offer 2 first-round picks and then have to pay him also. I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday as well, and the money you'd have to pay Lamar Jackson would be much more exorbitant than the money you would have to pay over the expanded time for an Aaron Rodgers. But if conversations, let's say, didn't go well with Aaron Rodgers yesterday, today, tomorrow, whatever it was, if there's a non-exclusive tag on Lamar from the Ravens, I could see the Jets at least kicking those tires.
True. It's just going to come. I think the cost of Lamar is going to come at a higher price than it would for Rodgers. That's all.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's going to cost you 2 first-round picks. I don't think it's going to cost you anywhere close to 2 first-round picks to get Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay.
What do you think? A first and a third?
I think there's a possibility you might be able to get him for a 2 and a 4.
Really? Wow. I was thinking 1 and 3, 2 and 4.
I mean, I think there's. I mean, you know, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe it costs you a 1 and a 3, maybe something like that. I don't think the initial, a throw out, and even Peter said at the time, listen, he has no idea. He was just guesstimating, so I'm not going to hold him to it. But I don't think it's going to cost you 2 1s. I don't think there's any way that it's going to that. As Work and Grind says, there's too much money involved. There's no doubt. And the Packers are ready to rid themselves of Aaron Rodgers, and they want to trade him to an AFC team. So maybe I think there's a possibility you could get Aaron Rodgers and not have to give up a first-round pick. I think there's a possibility. Or it might be a case of I'm giving up a 2024 first-round pick and not a 2023 first-round pick.
Yeah. I could see that. Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying? So then you're looking at next year. We're going to go on the assumption Rodgers is healthy. That pick is probably in all likelihood going to be 24 and below.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
sounds like a win-win for the Jets.
Sounds like a win-win, right? So, I think it's going to happen. And I think everything is pointing toward Aaron Rodgers being a New York Jet, and that would be unbelievable to see him in this marketplace where you and I reside, playing quarterback for the Jets next year. But it's tag day, 4:00. You mentioned Lamar Jackson. We got everything going on, obviously, with the Giants because they're trying to, at the last hour, figure out if they can get a long-term deal done with Daniel Jones. If they can't, then they're going to give that non-exclusive franchise tag and guarantee him $32.4 million. But if they do that, Keith, that means potentially they could lose Saquon Barkley. The Giants would love this. In the next 5.5 hours, because it's 10:30, right? Right around 10:30. Yep. In the next 5.5 hours, they would like to sign Daniel Jones to a long-term deal, spread that cap number out, and then tag Saquon Barkley. That's like
the perfect world scenario.
That's the perfect world scenario for the Giants. I think that's what they would like to do. Guarantee Saquon, I think the number is a tad over 10, and tag him, and then give Daniel Jones the contract or come to terms on a contract that appeases both sides. I don't know if they'll be able to get that done because you can't use 2 tags in one off season if you're a team.
Right. Just in the chat, Work and Grind writes, is Green Bay cursed? The last 2 QBs, both Hall of Fame and both leave like this. I would say that they're the exact opposite of cursed. Think about Green Bay, and they've had back-to-back Hall of Fame QBs for the last
mortals
25 years?
Yeah, they've had back
20 years, whatever it is.
Right. The thing, I wouldn't say it's cursed. I'd say ultimately they should have done more. You had Brett Favre,
because you end up with 2 Super Bowls out of both of those guys.
Right. You went to 2 with Favre. You won 1. You beat the Patriots. You lost to the Denver Broncos and Terrell Davis, and you've been to 1 with Aaron Rodgers. That's it. So you've had 2 immortal quarterbacks going back-to-back in Green Bay, and you've won 2 Super Bowls. You should have accomplished more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I would look at it. I mean, and plus, if that's cursed, sign any NFL team up there for what they have.
Yeah,
I mean,
what other organization has gone from QB to QB like that so seamlessly?
Well, the Colts did with Manning to Luck.
True. Yeah.
But they had that 1 year where they went 1-15, where they had Kerry Collins. It was a disaster when they got Andrew Luck, but Manning was hurt.
Right.
But then they didn't. I mean, think about that. You're the Indianapolis Colts. They didn't take care of Luck. They didn't build the offensive line around him, and he grew tired of basically getting his rear end kicked and dealing with all the injuries.
Yeah, and Barry Sanders did. He said, peace, I'm out.
We're going to talk a little football. You know who's going to join us? Felix Sharpe is
the most athletic player, broadcaster at Campus to Canton. I don't know if you saw some of the jump shots. But anyway.
Well, no doubt. I mean, I want to find out about his 40 time as well, because I saw that going back and forth too, because I think he was being questioned whether or not he could run the 40 in 5 seconds. I want to see this video as well.
I think he could crawl it in 5 seconds.
I'm sure he could.
Isn't as hard as you think.
No, easy for you to say, Keith, you and your abs. We'll get to Felix Sharpe. He'll join us next.
I ran a 4.4.
I'm sure you did,
years
Keith.
old.
I'm sure you did.
It's on tape, too.
It's Moose and Keith with you on a Tuesday right here at Better Sports Network.
It is.
Talk sports with Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Better Sports Network.
Let me say something about Tiger. Tiger has had to redesign his entire swing. Tiger has a difference in the length of his legs because of that horrible accident. In golf, there's no hey, you can't walk the greens, you have to take a cart. So I assumed by day 3 on Sunday, the inflammation would start. He took a couple breaks where they take care of his back a little bit, but it is fascinating watching him. So it gave me this thought, is he that skilled at golf? Or is this a mental thing of dedication and determination? He is so dedicated to the sport that no matter what, he's relentless to it. And the dedication and determination goes to the golf, the swing, the playing, the walking, but it goes to his overall health. The average person who doesn't stay in great shape, gets in an accident like that, goes through multiple surgeries, is not recovering and going out there to walk. And that course has some pretty steep inclines, a lot of walking. I mean, how else could you factor these athletes, the Michael Jordans, the LeBrons, these players that their whole focus is really optimal health, optimal body skills, optimal. And then what comes next is being the best at what they do.
I think you just hit on why Tiger still has that drive. I don't know this. I don't know the man. It could just be love of the game. It could be, I want to make as much money as I can while playing. Could be all this stuff. But LA, a lot of people think Tiger Woods is the GOAT of golf. And I don't understand how you can be the GOAT of golf when you are 3 majors short of Jack Nicklaus. Okay? So LeBron, I don't think he cares what guys like me say anymore, right? He's past Kareem. He thinks he's the GOAT. I mean, he's 3rd on my list. He's in the debate. Many other people think he's the GOAT. He's not my GOAT. You know what I mean? So I wonder if Tiger is there, like LeBron, I don't care what the pundits, what the barbershops say. I'm the GOAT. I don't have to do anything more. This is all gravy. I wonder if Tiger looks at it that way.
I don't know what Tiger's mindset is in the GOAT status, but when players talk about what it's like to be at a tournament, when Tiger's playing versus when he's not, they'll tell you that they're on the greens and they can hear the roar 4 holes over, and that there is nothing that compares to the excitement of when he's present.
Better Sports Live, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, exclusively on Better Sports Network. Or listen whenever you want on the app with BSN On Demand. Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
It is on a Tuesday. Felix Sharpe joins us now, Campus to Canton, and their freshman guide is out. Available at campustocanton.com. Arch Manning, the next Lincoln Riley quarterback. Is there another Tyreek Hill? Get the Campus to Canton freshman guide at campustocanton.com. Good morning, Felix. How are you, bud?
Moose and my bald brother, Keith. Listen, I was thinking coming on your show today, I seem to remember, and I cannot remember his name, but back in September, you guys had somebody on that was saying, hey, Anthony Richardson, watch out for this guy, even though he had 1 start at the time. And now, again, I cannot remember his name. And now the entire sports media complex is talking about Anthony Richardson after the performance he had at the NFL Combine. Ernie produces the show. I'm just going to offer a suggestion.
Right.
You guys should bring that guy on. I'm going to try to remember his name.
I'm trying to. Who was that?
Was it Austin?
It could have been Austin. It could have been Austin before that Utah game. I'm trying to remember. It'll come to me. It'll come to me.
It's the guy that would be able to run for you the fastest of your grouping there.
I mean, listen, I'm just saying. Listen, right, like you said, Keith, 5 seconds is nothing. I mean, it's nothing. If you ran track or
as long as you stretch, because we are all getting older. We can't we can't just be like, all right, let me sprint as hard as possible. That is how you pop things. Yes.
If you train for it 5 seconds, I mean, come on. If I'm being mocked and ridiculed saying I couldn't get under 5 seconds, we're going to see here.
You're my age, right? You're 42?
I'm 35. I'm 35.
Oh, I thought you were my age. You're 35. If you can't do this in under 5,
You're
seconds, by the way, you're no longer ever allowed back on the show.
Okay. All right.
I will.
All right.
When parents say to you, like, I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed.
Yes.
That's how I would feel if you can't get under 5. Because I'm just throwing it out there. When I was on the Chris Mannix show, I was the sidekick, and they were questioning my athletic abilities. So they decided it was right around this time when the combines were. And they were like, there's no way you could run a 40 and whatever the number was. So I ran it. It was double timed, by the way. One guy had it at 4.4. One guy had it at 4.41. I was 36 years old.
Keith, I mean, that's really impressive. That's really impressive.
I can jump and run.
Football.
Up until I was 38. I'm 5'10". Up until I was 38, I was still able to dunk. And I'm barely 5'10".
Did you have those Did you have those sneakers that guys used to wear? Those training sneakers?
The jump soles?
Yes, the jump soles where you run.
Yeah, I had those junior year of high school. Our entire basketball team.
I used to run stairs in those. I used to run stairs at Western Michigan University's campus in those.
There you go.
I got them for my 12-year-old son has them now. I got the brand new jump soles. They're a little big on him because they didn't have a kid size, but luckily he has big feet, so like it kind of works.
Yeah.
I have him training a little bit.
That's back in the day with the East Bay catalog, which no longer
Oh,
exists.
it's gone.
And
I know.
Yes. And you used to. My dad got me those with the high platform, and you could only walk on your toes, and it would stretch out your calf muscles. I mean, I used to train in those things.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Anthony.
Moose is like, I'm done with this. Can we talk about Anthony Richardson, please?
No, I mean, do we want to go back to when you were 12, Keith?
Yes.
Go back 30 years.
Glory days.
Let's talk a little bit about Anthony Richardson. Where's the balance here? Like, because we've seen not just quarterbacks, but guys go into the scouting combine, Felix, in years gone by, and they ball out. All right. They have unbelievable measurables. Vernon Golston with the Jets, Mike Mamula with the Eagles. I mean, there have been guys that have just, left scouts slack-jawed by their athletic ability, but then you have to look at the game film as well. So even with all that, Felix, and you're great to chat about this when you talk about Richardson is, there are some that look at him and still put project on him, that it's going to take him he's got to land in the right spot, and you've got to be really, really patient with Anthony Richardson, because if you start him right away, it could be disastrous. What's your take on where's the balance from what we saw in Indy to what we've seen on film, and then how it all translates into the National Football League?
Well, I want to correct one thing you said, Moose. So, I mean, we've seen guys like this. We've never seen guys like Anthony Richardson. He is the most athletic quarterback we have ever seen. And I tweeted in April of last year that he was one of the top 5 athletes playing football, period. Not college football. And so I think that it's fair to question a proponent. Well, it used to be he wanted a 4-year, wanted a senior. Now people declare early you want a 3-year starter. Anthony Richardson has only had 1 year starting. He had in 2021 he started against Georgia, didn't play that well. I like for quarterbacks to have had the reps, and he hasn't. So as much as I love Anthony Richardson, he will still be my quarterback 3 in this class behind C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. But, I mean, you look at the tools and you look at his decision-making on the field, his ability to move in the pocket and play as a traditional quarterback. Quite frankly, Dan Mullen was a better offensive schemer for Anthony Richardson. You would see him run, these quarterback dives and then pull Anthony Richardson back. When all these safeties came up, they would run a running back behind him. Billy Napier, in his first year at Florida, used him more in a traditional sense. You got to build an offense around his strengths. You have to have those linebackers and those safeties scared that he is just going to run quarterback dive and beat you with 5-yard runs because he's 244 pounds and he's got some Derrick Henry to his game. I think if you can play him in that sort of offense, you bring 8 in the box, so we only got 3 guys back deep coverage. You're going to open some holes in that secondary for some deep plays. Allow him to get some confidence and some reps in an offense like that, and we could really see him develop. So I think that it is a fair criticism. It is a fair criticism, not just because, what he put on raw production-wise, 53% completion percentage, but because he's only had 1 year starting. And we have seen Dwayne Haskins off the top of my head.
Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez, but also Kyler Murray. 1 year starter. So that concerns me, but just give him Ben Roethlisberger's career early on in Pittsburgh. What did they do? They ran the ball with Willie Parker. They ran the ball with Detroit native Jerome Bettis. Let him get on the field, see defenses, have an offense around him so he can build confidence, and his career trajectory could be similar to someone like Ben Roethlisberger.
All right, but let me I'm sorry, Keith. I just want to follow up one thing. What about the accuracy aspect? I mean, because either and people looked at Josh Allen, right, was a guy that was not highly accurate, but some would question the talent that he was playing with and collegiately, right? I'm curious about the accuracy because 53%, you can't cut it in the NFL if you're at 53%. What about him throwing the ball accurately enough? Is that something that scheme-wise you could work out? Is that something that you think that, the accuracy was a product of the players around him? Do you think the accuracy is something that will improve Felix on the next level?
Well, so look at I'll direct you to what the Bills did, and then I'll point you to what the Carolina Panthers did with Cam Newton. With Cam Newton, that team, they got Steve Smith, but then they drafted trees around Cam Newton. Devin, I can't remember his last name, and then Calvin Benjamin. They drafted Devin Funchess from Michigan. I should have remembered that. But they drafted these guys who had big catch radiuses. What did the Buffalo Bills do? They went and got a safety blanket in Cole Beasley to put him in the slot. They got the wide receiver who creates the most. If you're going to have accuracy issues, let's give you a lot of room to make mistakes. So we go get Stephon Diggs. If a team builds like that around Anthony Richardson, again, you're going to see him have developed confidence as he continues to get the reps. In fairness, I think, and I don't know this off the top of the head, but I think that Josh Allen at Wyoming had at least 1 or 2 seasons under 60% completion percentage. So I'm worried about the decisions that he's making. Sure. And again, early on in his career, I think the run game is going to be a fundamental aspect of that offense. But there are going to be some big plays in that because you're going to have to drop 8 in the box, just like they do with Lamar Jackson, because that run is a threat every single time. Now we got a guy who can basically play fullback as a quarterback and grind you down. So listen, it's fair, but we've seen this before where NFL teams that are run well, they build their offense around their quarterback's strengths and weaknesses. And hopefully the team that drafts Anthony Richardson will, 1, get some wide receivers who can get open for him, and 2, design plays the way Dan Mullen designed plays for Anthony Richardson.
Landing spot is obviously key. So this might be a difficult question to answer, but if you had to kind of stamp your name on this and your reputation of the 4 QBs that are going to be taken in the first round, which one do you think will be the best NFL QB?
The best, I mean, it's how do you define that? So I think that CJ Stroud probably has the highest floor. Anthony Richardson has the highest ceiling, and Bryce Young is somewhere in the 20. I still don't believe Will Levis is going in the first round. I've heard that. I keep hearing that. I just don't think that it's going to happen.
I think he's going to go in the first round just because everyone like that. I don't know. I think he will because that's what we're being told, and that's what the teams are always searching for somebody.
Yeah. So to me, who's going to be the best? It is, I mean, it's CJ Stroud because it's still a passing game, but he plays a different game, than Anthony Richardson. He definitely plays a different game than Bryce Young. I've said this a bunch. Before Jared Goff started playing well late in the season, I wanted CJ Stroud in Detroit. I don't think that's going to happen. He's going to get taken before he gets to the Detroit Lions pick. But just think about a team that has, a solid offensive line, diversity in the skill position players and that wide receivers that can do a lot. CJ Stroud would be perfect there. But, his ball placement is just, on another level. And you saw it in the combine. Like they had that post corner route where you're trying to get the ball right next to the sideline. A lot of the other quarterbacks missed it. And CJ Stroud is hitting it, 40 yards down the field, just dropping it in the basket right along the sideline, allowing the wide receiver to keep their feet in bounds. So I've had CJ Stroud as the number one quarterback because I just prefer his ability to play on schedule, on time, over Bryce Young's kind of backyard style. And quite frankly, I think that CJ Stroud is going to take less contact playing that way. He's probably going to have less susceptible to injury. So CJ Stroud is still, he has always been my number one quarterback. Anthony Richardson back in September was always my number 3 quarterback in this class, and nothing has really changed for me.
Felix, I'm from a leadership perspective, when you look at all 4, because you mentioned Kyler Murray, and obviously there's issues in Arizona with Kyler Murray, has been well documented, well reported, and not others. I mean, there's, historically speaking, there's been other guys as well. Carson Wentz is a guy that people look at and, has had leadership issues each and every step or process, especially when his play started to decline. When you look at all 4 players, there was a report last week that Young, when he got into the room with NFL teams, breaking down defenses, that they were blown away by his ability on the board and some of his interview work. I'm curious, of all 4 of the guys, any leadership concerns in terms of, because the NFL is always looking for that step in the room, alpha male. It was a knock on Mariota coming out of Oregon. He was too nice of a guy, all these things. Any kind of, when you look at that aspect, away from the athleticism that we've seen and what throws they can make, any concerns from a leadership perspective in any of the 4 quarterbacks?
I think leadership is all about respect. And if you can ball, you're going to command the respect of your teammates around you. So we don't know as much about the personalities of the top 3 quarterbacks because we just haven't seen them in the public eye as much. I mean, I know CJ Stroud and Bryce Young has been on premier programs, but like with Justin Fields, we had the QB1 show on Netflix to kind of see how he was personally. We haven't really gotten that much access of Bryce Young, and Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. I get the impression that they're more quiet leaders like an Eli Manning type or Marcus Mariota, but they can ball. Yeah. And when you can ball and help these guys get $1 million contracts because you're that good, you're going to command the respect of the locker room. I don't really see that to be any particular issue.
What is the fallout for Jalen Carter with his off-the-field issues now going into the draft?
Yeah, it's a good – so, Moose, Keith, you were going. I was on with you and Moose and Corey when we talked about Todd McShay and his statements about Jalen Carter having character concerns. This is let's keep in mind, Todd McShay mentioned that there were locker room concerns with Jalen Carter. I don't think that dumb kid – drag racing is on that spectrum of being a locker room concern. And of course, a lot of his teammates came to back him up. What does it mean? I mean, we saw minutes before the draft, we saw Jeremy Tunsil post a bong video, and he dropped to 10? Jalen Carter is widely considered to be either the best or the second best defensive player in this draft. And he's charged with a misdemeanor. He's probably going to get probation. When it comes down to brass tacks, I think an NFL team is still going to be like, yeah, we're taking that guy. We'll swallow the pill on, whatever media hit or PR hit we'll take on drafting this guy. And I've seen mixed statements about how far he's going to fall, but he's still going to be taken in the top 15, in my opinion. And during that portion of the draft, they'll go into the accident or whatever. And in a year from now, we will not think about it the same way with Joe Mixon and him punching that girl. We haven't talked about it since then.
Yeah, or when Warren Sapp dropped in the draft because of the positive drug test in Miami, right? And then all of a sudden, Warren Sapp was a Hall of Fame player on the field for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it was an unbelievable player for the University of Miami. But this is the case where it becomes over-analysis when you're looking at these prospects and they're digging deep and looking at every single thing. I'm curious, Felix, let's look at some position players. We focused on the quarterback. Let's look at the receiver spot. Coming out of the combine, because when we had you on last, I asked you about the overall depth, and it's a receivers league and all that. Is there anybody coming out of the combine that is starting to separate themselves as wide receiver 1 clearly when it's coming springtime in the draft?
I think clearly is the key word there, because I don't think that there is a clear wide receiver 1. Quentin Johnston is big and athletic.
What about his hands?
I was just going to say there are questions about his consistency with his hands. He tends to be more of a clapper. With Jackson Smith and Jigba, he did great in the combine testing that he did, but didn't run the 40. So he is a probably a slot wide receiver, because if he was someone that was going to blaze and run a 4.4, he would have just ran the 40. And we don't really see slot wide receivers taken in the first round. If you're going to compare him to Cooper Kupp or Amon-Ra St. Brown or Elijah Moore, all of those guys were guys that were taken after the first round. Jordan Addison, came in small but tested fine. To answer that question, and he can probably play all three positions, X, Z, and F. I don't think that there is a clear number one. Quentin Johnston, to me, is the closest thing because he can play the X position. He can do, the Dez Bryant, Calvin Johnson role where you go up against Patrick Surtain and Jalen Ramsey. I don't think that there's another receiver in this class that fits that profile. He has questions about his hands, which is why there's no clear number one.
All right, how about the running back spot outside Bijan Robinson? Because he's clearly the number one running back, and everyone loves him. Now the question is, where is Bijan going to get drafted? Outside of Robinson, is there 2, 3, 4? Is there a guy that you're keeping an eye on that you think, if he lands in the right spot, is going to pop as a rookie?
When's your break? I mean, how much time do I got here? Listen, Jahmyr Gibbs was not offered by Georgia coming out of Dalton, Georgia, or was offered very late in the process after all of these other schools offered him. And I've been saying since 2020, but this is like an Aaron Jones profile type player. Now, we didn't see it at Alabama, but he is the best wheel route runner in this class. Similar to Aaron Jones. If you get man-to-man defense and you get Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield, he can either run those option routes or beat you deep. The question about Jahmyr Gibbs had been his size. Coming in at 199 pounds, Alabama had him listed at 200. Perfect size for his play style, because he's not a guy that we're going to give 20 carries to running up the A-gap. He's a guy that we hope. I've tweeted this out too. Give me Jahmyr Gibbs as the next player to have 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving. He is that good as a receiver. You can line him up in the slot. You can line him up outside, and he can create mismatches. Doesn't have the size that Bijan Robinson does, but the versatility is absolutely there. So the questions were his size. Okay, he comes in at 199, about 200. Check. Did he try to bulk up for that? Well, let's see when he runs the 40. Runs a 4.36. This dude is super, super explosive. He is what we saw on tape, what we've known since his time at Georgia Tech. He might sneak into the back of the first round. Oh, my goodness. The Kansas City Chiefs are not picking up Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's option?
Or should they?
You're telling me that in the back of the second round, Andy Reid might get a second shot at his Brian Westbrook and Jahmyr Gibbs? Yeah, it's Jahmyr Gibbs. He's the number 2 running back in this class.
Going past that, I think that a lot of people, you're in this. You are studying this. Who's a name that maybe could be like a 3rd or a 4th round, like someone a little bit of a deeper dive, or a few names if you have them, that we should be paying attention to, and that from a fantasy standpoint might even help some people next year and the years to come, because dynasty drafts are going to be happening.
Yeah, this is why you play Campus to Canton leagues, because you get familiar with these names and they're scoring points for you on the college side. And then, the guys in the 3rd round of your dynasty rookie drafts, really become intimately familiar with them. I'll give you 2 names. Dalton Kincaid, move tight end, had, 217 yards receiving on 14 catches versus USC the first time they played. Tight ends always tend to fall. I think that he's a pretty safe prospect, so he's one. At the running back position, I love the thick bowling ball, the guy that when you play that player as a defensive back, you're a cornerback and you know that you got to are buckled. And Dwayne McBride out of UAB is that of player, a thumper. Probably going to be day 3 or 5th round. But when you talk about, what Javonte Williams was coming out of UNC, now Javonte Williams was bigger and more explosive. But these running backs who lower the tackling surface, shrink the tackling surface, and kind of just buck tacklers off of them, I love those running backs. 2 years ago was Ramondre Stevenson. This year, it's Dwayne McBride for me.
Felix, away from the draft for a second, I got to ask you a Texas question, because I couldn't believe what I was reading with Sarkisian coming out saying, is there any way that Arch Manning is not the starter week 1 for the Texas Long. I mean, the idea that it's going to be a quarterback competition, we've heard about Arch Manning since he was like 12 years old. And Sarkisian's talking about a quarterback competition for Texas. Is there any way that he's not the starter week 1 for the Longhorns?
Yeah, I'm really disappointed in Steve Sarkisian doing this for the second year in a row.
Like, what are you doing?
When there really, really isn't. Now, Arch Manning is a very good quarterback prospect, and he's a name that even casual fans know. But Quinn Ewers, coming out of South Lake Carroll, a prestigious high school program there in Texas, is just as good or better a quarterback recruit coming out of high school. And he's going to be in his third year. He's a junior. Steve Sarkisian, I think the quote was either Malik Murphy coming out of the same high school as Tom Brady in California or Arch Manning would have a shot if they're up for it. So what happens when we get to fall camp and Quinn Ewers is named the starter, or we get to week 1 and Quinn Ewers is named the starter? Does that mean that Arch Manning and Malik Murphy weren't up for it? No, I think that it's in spring camp, in training camp, reps mean a lot. You know, your first team is going to get 60% of the reps. You're trying to win a national championship. Put your damn starting quarterback in and give him all the reps, your upperclassmen. This is silly. He did it last year with Hudson Card and Quinn Ewers, when we know full well that this golden child, Quinn Ewers, when he came from Ohio State to Texas, that he was going to start. Stop playing games. It serves no one. It doesn't serve Arch Manning. It doesn't serve Malik Murphy. It doesn't serve Quinn Ewers that he doesn't have the full backing of his head coach. Now, with that said, you can believe that, but don't put it in the media. That's why I respect Bill Belichick, because he doesn't give you like anything to go off, anything to write stories about. Now this thing is circulating that there's a quarterback competition in Texas when there shouldn't be. I think that Steve Sarkisian's words were irresponsible.
Do you think, is Arch Manning overrated as a prospect?
No, he's not overrated. I don't know how much you want to elaborate on that, but he's a very good player. He's a player that's
like, is
polished.
he going to play? I guess the expectation is him to be, you know, like his uncles. I mean, is he going to be the level of?
Well, he's more athletic than both of them.
He's definitely more athletic than them. He has all of the tools. There's a reason why he's considered the number 1 quarterback by most in this class. He has mobility. He can make you jump off sides. He can get free plays, kind of things that you don't see from high school quarterbacks. But I'm not going to undersell what physical gifts he has to play the position. He is not going to play this year. He shouldn't. He's behind a very talented junior there. But no, I do not think that he's overrated. And he's with a guy in Sark who's developed, you know, Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa. So, you know, he's had success with quarterback development. No, he's not overrated.
How difficult is it for you guys to put together the freshman guide for Campus to Canton? It seems like a lot of work.
Well, I mean, we got a great team. It is not, you know, we have a great team. It is a team effort, and we have some drop down, drag out fights about where these guys should be ranked. And, you know, we don't all agree with one another. So, you know, I might have 15 or 20 or 30 players that I wrote up for the guide, and David and Matt and Solving Football and Austin, you know, those guys will have written up guys. And then we argue and we debate about where they should be tiered. So it is not difficult. It's the most fun thing that I do, just opening up a prospect that nobody has seen, we don't have a lot of information about, and just trying to figure out where they fit on the college football spectrum. And let me just tell you guys, this quarterback class, this freshman quarterback class, this was the class of 2026. I don't know how to do math. I went to poor public school. So Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma, Dante Moore at UCLA coming out of Detroit, Arch Manning, who we've already talked about, Malachi Nelson at UCLA, and Nico Iamaleava going to Tennessee. We're going to be talking about these guys in 3 years. They're going to be putting up, you know, really prolific stats in college, and all 5 of them are going to be considered potential first-round draft picks. And I'm telling you that without having them seen them play a down of football at the collegiate level.
Who's the next guy for Lincoln Riley at USC when Caleb goes pro next year?
That is a very good question. So you would assume it's Malachi Nelson, who I just mentioned, one of these 5-star quarterbacks. However, Dominic Royola's son, Dominic Royola, longtime center for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, former Nebraska center.
former Nebraska center. His son, Dylan Royola, we're having a good – don't worry about the NFL having quarterbacks because there are a lot of them in the pipeline. Dominic Royola has been compared to Patrick Mahomes because what he can do off platform, throwing the baseball throws and all of that. He was crystal balled to USC for next year. So he will be a freshman. In January, he will be on campus with Malachi Nelson. Those two, if that commitment stays, they're going to be battling it out for the starting quarterback position there. You have two very talented quarterbacks for Lincoln Riley there. So it's going to be one of those two, either Dylan Royola or Malachi Nelson.
Felix, you're awesome.
Before we let you go, Felix, we had this conversation earlier. Do you cry over sports?
Oh, man. So I think it was 2014 in the NFC North. Aaron Rodgers was injured. Jay Cutler was injured. And the Lions had the chance. We haven't won a playoff game since January 5th, 1992. Okay, it's been over 10,000 days since we won a playoff game. Every starting quarterback except for ours, Matthew Stafford, was injured. We were playing the Ravens on Thursday night. I think it was a Thursday night game. Good Ravens team. I think they had just come off their Super Bowl win. We were winning the entire game with like less than 2 minutes left. Justin Tucker kicks a 61-yard field goal. So here's the 50-yard line. He made the field goal, kicking that ball from like the 49 or the 47, whatever it was. I was like, okay, fine. We got Matthew Stafford. He's Mr. It's like a minute 30 left. He's had so many comebacks. That's fine. We get the ball after the kickoff. He throws an interception on the first play. We only had 2 timeouts. That was the end of the game. I had my cell phone. That was when smartphones just came out, or by my first moment. I spiked it on the ground. I could not control my hand. I spiked it, and I went into the shower and cried. That is the last time that I cried about sports.
So like Keith doesn't cry at all.
I don't cry over sports.
I'm very emotional.
Well, you're a Jets fan, Keith, aren't you?
No, I'm actually an Eagles fan.
Yeah. And they lost the Super Bowl. Okay. He didn't care.
No, I didn't play in the game. I couldn't have done anything differently.
You're weird.
I've been told that I'm weird, by the way, for this. Yeah. I always felt like I didn't play in the game. I couldn't have done anything differently.
You didn't cry when your kids were born.
Did not cry when my children were born, no.
Tears of joy. Like I was a sappy mess. I couldn't believe it. Instant
Campus to Canton show, 7 p.m. right here on the Better Sports Network.
Felix, you're the best. We appreciate it. By the way,
it is out, campustocanton.com.
I've always wanted to ask you this question because I never did. Just from how exactly did the Eagles draft Jalen Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson?
You're trying to get me to cry.
Now, how exactly? I'm just curious. Like, what would you watch those two players now in the NFL? Like, and I understand Reagor could fly at TCU, but how exactly are you in the room and you draft Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson?
Listen, Jalen Reagor was the centerpiece of an offense at TCU, and you got to remember, Justin Jefferson was a little bit hidden behind Jamar Chase, Terrence Marshall, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Joe Burrow, and Randy Moss's son was on that LSU team. Thaddeus Moss. So, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle when he's surrounded by that much talent. I know Jalen Reagor hasn't worked out at the NFL, but he was a dynamic return man, after the catch guy, speed guy. We thought that he would go run a 4.3 at the combine. He didn't. But, he was a very good player for a long time at TCU. So, everybody has their misses.
Yeah.
I'm toss my hands up on Jalen Reagor.
It just feels worse because Justin Jefferson now looks like he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and Jalen Reagor is going to he'll be on 9 teams.
Gritty, and he's Jay Jettis. And
Keith, in 1998, the Detroit Lions took Terry Fair at pick 21. Who was pick 22? Randy Moss. What are we going to do here?
It hurts.
Felix, thank you, brother. Good luck with everything. We love you. We love chatting with you. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right.
Good luck in your 40-yard dash.
Campus to Canton. Yes, I look forward to that 40-yard. He'll clear 5 seconds easy.
He's going to clear it easily.
It's amazing with you, Keith. Not only do you have your time, but you also have it on video.
Yeah, it was on social media. I would have to figure out where they put it.
I'm sure you could find it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're looking like I'd have to search for it. It's right there in your fingertips.
I mean, I can get you my box jump too if you need that.
We'll come back. We'll get into a little NBA. Hit upon the association. Knicks back in action tonight as they're taking on Charlotte. Keith's got some picks as well. A little finger roll as we roll along. We're hitting an hour number 2, rolling right up until noon. Moose and Keith with you on a Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
We're talking catchers. And Ray, as we jump into this position, traditionally, this has been a position that you kind of say, well, there's like 2-3 guys and the rest is just junk. And gosh, I'm in a 2-catcher league. How in the hell am I going to fill 2 spots, in this 12-man league? And it's such a struggle after the 8th catcher. Like, fair to say it's different now? I mean, I know it's not great, but it feels like the best catcher pool I've seen in a while, like at least a half decade in terms of, wow, we've got some hitters, we've got guys, and I know they're not exclusively catchers, and the DH is helping, certainly, but it looks like we're going, 10, 12 deep at least of feeling good about catchers, I think.
I tier the players at positions because I think that's a really good way to look at them. And when you tier players, you're basically putting guys that are likely to produce similar levels of production in the same tier. One guy might be batting average, one guy might be home runs, that kind of a thing, but basically the same end result value-wise. I have 2 guys on the elite tier. I then have 9 guys or 8 guys on the next tier. And then I go all the way to 22 on the 3rd tier, which basically almost gets us to that, 2 catchers in the 24, 12-team league kind of thing. So I agree with you. And I think that even if you look beyond that, there's some names that are outside my top 20 that I could easily see being top 15 catchers this year. So yeah, it's not wow, but it's good overall. We got some young guys coming in that are dynamic players to help out some of the older guys that are still hanging on. It's better than it has been. I agree with you.
It's actually very young, Ray. And that, I mean, you look at Varsho, Rauschman, William Contreras, Kirk, Melendez, Cal Riley's semi-young, but Hebert Ruiz. And there's still other guys coming up that are in the minors right now. It's, we used to always say all these young catchers, just catch. Don't worry about hitting. These guys are coming up with some skill sets as well.
Yeah, and the game is different now, right? Back in the day, you were an old dude that had no athleticism. You were good at blocking balls, and we hoped you'd pop 15 home runs, right? That was kind of the MO. Now it's different. Now we get more athletic guys. It's not that, you have to be some dumpy, slow guy catching. You can be an athletic player that can play other positions, as you noted. So I think the youngsters are bringing more athleticism, kind of like the tight end position in football, right? It's like there is more athleticism at the tight end spot than there was 25 years ago. I think it's the same way at the catcher spot.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Better Sports Network. Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
Oh, I was just bumping Nas the other day with Austin.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There you go. Why are we hearing ourselves?
I don't know. There's a weird echo going on right now.
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting you ready for the upcoming baseball season with the Better Baseball preview from fantasy baseball to MLB betting and the newest baseball cards for 2023. You can access our exclusive content for free right now at bettersports.com, featuring some of the best minds in the industry like Adam Ronis, Ray Flowers, Cody Decker. Get player profiles, prop bets, and futures, sleepers, and busts, fantasy draft strategy, collectibles, and more at no cost. Please register with your name and email at bettersports.com right now and get instant access plus notification when new features are released. Go to bettersports.com and sign up for the Better Baseball preview.
Bunch of player profiles on there. And it's like quick too. Easy to check out. 30 seconds, minute long. Find out everything you need to know. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we got a draft tonight too. I'm going to be a part of.
You're in it, right?
Yes, I am in it.
Do you know wait, is this one is this auction or a snake?
No, I believe it's snake draft.
Do you don't know your number yet?
I do not know.
Do you have like a game plan?
No, not really. I'm just going to have fun with it.
You just know baseball and you're smarter than everybody else in the draft. So
I'm not saying that. I'm not egotistical like that. I'm just going to have a good time with it. It's going to be fun. I know it was a joke. I know.
Are you going to be on video for it or no?
I think on one pick, Other than that, no.
You're going to do something clever? Have you thought about like how you want to announce it?
No, I'm going to be at PIX. So no, what would you like me to do? Dress up?
Who's the weather person for PIX?
Mr. G.
Exactly.
Legend.
I know. Can you get Mr. G to make your pick for you?
Maybe.
That would be kind of clever.
I gotta ask him.
Be like, the weather outside seems to be okay, but Moose is gonna make it rain all over you with Shohei Ohtani. I don't know, something like that. Right?
He could do that for sure. Yeah. But yeah,
Moose is drafting Mike Trout and bringing the thunderstorm.
How many drafts are you going to be a part of?
0.
None? You're not doing. Oh, you can't do fantasy baseball.
I'm kind of not allowed to. Yeah,
okay.
I will 100%. I can
for fun.
So I can't do it for money. Can I do it for fun and bragging rights? Sure, but I will. No, I'll just follow along.
Okay.
I just try to be as safe as possible with all that stuff.
No,
nothing is worth having what happened to Calvin Ridley happen, which, by the way, congratulations, Calvin, you're back in the NFL. But nothing is worth that.
Oh no, were you getting banned? Yeah, I mean Ridley's got to be smarter than that.
Yeah, wasn't his smartest day.
No, it's not, but he's rightfully so, and now he's going to be an absolute fantasy stud for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, he had 26 touchdown receptions in 3 years for the Atlanta Falcons. Now you throw him down in Jacksonville with Doug Peterson, with Travis Etienne, with Zay Jones. I mean, they franchise tagged Evan Ingram, who had a career year at tight end. Finally, Evan Ingram developed into the player that Jerry Reese always thought he was going to be when they drafted him in the first round out of Ole Miss for the New York Giants. And Ingram said he was happy to be down in Jacksonville. He had a great year, loved being there. Why wouldn't you be? You've got what could be an all-time great quarterback early on in his career and a burgeoning superstar in Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I want all the shares of Trevor Lawrence in fantasy football this year.
No doubt. I want all the shares.
So in on him.
Well, and not just that, but not just Trevor Lawrence, Etienne I love. And I talked about him before the start of this year. Like, I love Travis Etienne, and then he became a tremendous runner and receiver coming out of the backfield. And Zay Jones was really productive. I think Evan Ingram.
Christian Kirk.
Evan Ingram developed into a tight end one fantasy-wise, a top 5 tight end as a receiver by the middle part of the year. He was great. Ridley's going to be awesome down in Jacksonville because you've got a coach in Doug Peterson that actually knows what he's doing and cares.
It's crazy when you have a coach that cares and knows what they're doing.
Right. That actually is less about just himself and his ego and what he's accomplished and more about the players and trying to get the best out of the players.
Isn't that nice?
Right.
Isn't that nice?
Right. Now, all those that looked at Trevor Lawrence a year ago at this time and questioning just how good he was going to be, now everybody can't get enough, as you mentioned, of Trevor Lawrence. Well, it's amazing how coaching does matter.
It is crazy. And that's where we could go back to our Mac Jones conversation.
Yeah.
If the Patriots actually have an offensive coordinator this year and can actually put a real offense in and maybe they get a wide receiver, you're right. Maybe Mac Jones is better than just fine.
Yeah, maybe he is. I mean
sometimes that is what matters.
Yeah, I think Jones, whatever it is, will be significantly better than he was this past
Has to be. To be.
I
mean, if he's not, then he's on his way out of the league. Do you know what I mean?
If
he has another year like last year,
right, and
this time has an offensive coordinator, then you're starting to think of, all right, he might not be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Right. Correct.
Right. Like then he's Gardner Minshew. Do you know what I mean? Like where
backup quarterback, hanging on. Right. Yeah, you're right about that.
Can make a lot of money being a backup quarterback and have a really long career, but yeah, someone like Mac Jones, a first round pick,
and you can play in the XFL or the AFL.
Yeah. Who's the quarterback that just AJ McCarron, because his son, I guess, never got a chance to like see him play, so he decided to do it.
Cool story.
Yeah,
McCarron now. Who's he the star? He's starring the XFL, right?
XFL. He's XFL.
Yes, XFL. I haven't gotten into any of the spring football.
I haven't either. I had it on my list of things to check out, and the next thing you know, I think they're 3 weeks in, and I if I'm being honest, and I'm going to be, I haven't watched a single second of an XFL game.
Yeah, I've seen the
highlights.
I've seen highlights. I haven't watched much. I'm not trying to. I don't think spring football works. Like I said a long time ago on national radio. Like I don't I think it's a long college and NFL season. I think, and I understand we're at a feverish pitch where we understand what's on the line when you're looking at college football, when you're looking at the National Football League. You give up all these weekends and everything now to ask for the football fan to give even more and delve into spring football when you don't have the best quality of players. The quarterback play is inconsistent. It's just tough to watch. It's tough to sell. I get they're looking and saying, well, people are going to care because they love football, but they also like watching good football. They don't want to watch bad football.
And I wonder if it would work. And I don't know.
I'll turn NFL games off if it's bad football. Like I just won't watch. Why do I need to watch it? Why do I need to watch bad quarterbers play the game?
Yeah, we've seen. How about some of those Thursday night games?
Oh, they're terrible. The Thursday night product was awful for years. I used to get into argument. Oh, well, all football is good football. No,
that's not true.
It's not.
But I do wonder, like the XFL, the spring leagues, Moose. I wonder if it was NFL spring is what I mean. Like if the branding was NFL and not XFL, if it would be
maybe
if you'd be more inclined to pay attention. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Like I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch the World League.
Yeah.
Like I used to watch the World League. I mean, I wouldn't tell you that I was locked into every move by Frankfurt, but I mean, I would watch the World League when it was on.
I also think that let me go back to something you said that really it just popped in my head. So football fans devote 21 weeks, if you include the Super Bowl, of their lives to Sundays, like a singular day, a weekend, right? Some Saturdays, some Thursdays, and some Mondays. But I know that, people mix and match there. I wonder if these leagues are doing it wrong by having these games on Saturdays and Sundays, right? Because it's, Moose, you're not going to tell Donna and the boys on a Sunday, hey guys, I can't go to the ice hockey rink today to watch you play, or I can't take you out to go to Dave and Buster's and have a nice family afternoon playing video games because an XFL game is on, right? You're not going to do that. I mean, unless you were getting paid to cover it, but whatever. But I could see on a random Wednesday night, there's an XFL game and you would watch it if it's at 7:30, and you might even watch it with the boys the first half, and it'd be a way to get them into that. I wonder if they're picking the wrong days to have their games.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, it's impossible. Like I mean, if you have a family and whatever, you have other responsibilities, and sometimes during the college and NFL season, it's hard to kind of crack and break yourself away because you don't want to be an absentee father, an absentee mother, and just be watching games. You want to be there for your kids while they're having important days in their young lives, impressionable days. So you want to be there to support them. So yeah, it might be right if you say you put it on a Monday night or a Tuesday night. I mean, I wouldn't tell you the NBA regular season every single night is must watch. I love watching the National Hockey League, but I'm not going to tell you that I understand where the NHL does fall. I think maybe if they stuck it outside of watching on the weekends, maybe it would be a little bit more successful. I just think it's the overall quality of the play. I mean, that's all what it comes down to. I'm not saying you go to a minor league baseball game, or you go to a G League game, or you're watching AHL hockey. It's enjoyable, but I mean, am I going to be locked in and watching Bridgeport Islander games every single night?
No.
No, I've taken the boys. We've gone to 3 or 4 over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, and they have a great time. They get a puck. It's a cheaper ticket as compared to the National Hockey League. You sit close to the ice. You're right on top of the rink, and it's a fun environment, and they make it really, really family friendly. However, it's not like you're clamoring to all of a sudden that you need to get back. And I think with the XFL and the AFL, I think it's just the overall quality of the play. And I'm not holding it against guys to where they're trying to work themselves back into the NFL and get another look into the National Football League. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
But nobody likes watching bad quarterback play in the NFL. So now I'm going to sit there and watch bad quarterback play in the AFL or the XFL. I just can't do that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Want to do a little hoops?
Sure, let's do it.
Roll it, guys.
Better Sports Network presents Finger Roll with Moose and Keith.
Yeah, let's do a little finger roll. You got some NBA plays.
I do. Yesterday we didn't get to some of our plays. Went 3-2 on my plays yesterday that we did not give out on the air. So missed the Nikola Jokic triple-double by 1 assist. By the way, how about the Jokic odds are now every time for a triple-double is minus money now. No longer are you getting your plus money. We talked about it since January. We've been talking about that. At some point we were going to be at minus money, and we're there. All right, 8 games on the slate, Moose. We're going to start with the Bucks and the Magic. I'm going to look at Drew Holiday. I'm going to go over 2.5 threes. What I'm trying to find for everybody is some value plays. I am going a little bit star chasing today. Okay, there's not many deep dives. I'm not giving you names that you don't typically know. But Drew Holiday, I'm going to go over 2.5 3-pointers here. Plus 106 on Caesars, plus 105 on DraftKings. His last 2 games has 3 threes and 5 threes and 3 or more threes, 4 of his last 6 games. And the Orlando Magic, while they play good defense, they do tend to give up more outside shots than interior shots. So give me Drew Holiday over 2.5 threes.
All right, so Holiday over 2.5 threes in the Bucks and the Magic. How about Hornets and Knicks?
All right, Hornets and Knicks. This is a potential, I'm not going to pick this game because this is the ultimate.
Like Charlotte plus the points.
Probably, if I were going to, it's the ultimate trap game, right? I mean, this is the Knicks have won 9 games in a row. They're beating good teams, all this kind of stuff. I think the Knicks, but I think the Knicks will win this game, but I'm not going to pick it. So I'm going to give you a player prop. And I think that what we're noticing from the New York Knicks, Josh Hart has been key and Mitchell Robinson's health has been key. Take a look at what Robinson has done. 5 of his last 6 games, he has a double-double. And then defensively, the Hornets, they're middle of the pack. Give me a double-double, plus 110 on FanDuel for Mitchell Robinson.
All right, like that. I can understand that. I mean, I think the Knicks are going to win. Could you see Charlotte keeping that game within the number? What is it sitting at? Last I checked,
10 when I checked.
I thought I saw last night it was like 10.5, 11. Maybe it's 10. It's come down a little bit. I could understand where you maybe think the Hornets keep it within that number. I'd be stunned, though, if the Hornets go into Madison Square Garden tonight and beat the Knicks. But I like that with Mitchell Robinson, no doubt about it, his impact. How about Warriors in Oak City taking on the Thunder?
So this is another one I'm going to look at pace of play. So you got the Thunder pace of play third. You got the Warriors pace of play second. You got the Thunder bottom 10 in defense. By the way, our chat's telling us that the Knicks 9.5-point favorites. I'm still not going to touch it. I think the Knicks may win this game by 7 or 8. They're going to win the game, but whatever. We're sticking Warriors and Thunder. Steph Curry, while you can still get a number of 26.5, typically his number is usually 28.5. Give me the 26.5 minus 108 on Caesars. First game back from injury was 27 points in the return on Sunday. And again, I went back to the pace of play. There's going to be shots to be had. Oklahoma City, third in pace of play. Warriors, second in pace of play. Again, I told you, going a little star chasing today.
All right, so I like that. Steph Curry over 26.5 points, Warriors in Oak City. How about Jazz and Mavs?
Jazz, 11th in pace of play. Where does that lead me? Jazz, 8th most points per game allowed in the NBA. You say Luka? I say Kyrie Irving. We're going to go over 25.5 points for Kyrie Irving, minus 118 on FanDuel. Shop your books. I've seen this fluctuate a little bit. If you want to go to 26.5 on a couple of the books, you can get into the plus money. His last 2 games, you got 30, you got 40 points. I think Kyrie has himself a night tonight. I wouldn't be mad at you if you wanted to chase plus money as well and go after the 7.5 assists. It's not something I always feel that confident with Kyrie about. And I'll also throw this out too. You can look at his rebound number as well. Because of the pace of play, sometimes that lends itself to long rebounds, which is something that a guard grabs. I haven't seen him grab big numbers yet while he's in Dallas, so I'm going to go with the points at 25.5.
All right, 25.5 over for Kyrie. How about Grizzlies in LA taking on the Lakers? Anything with Mr. Street Clothes?
Yeah, your boy, Anthony Davis. I'm going to go over 28.5 points here. Minus 119 on Caesars was the best number I could find. 30 or more points in back-to-back games in 3 of his last 4 games. Double-double, just for S's and G's, I looked it up.
I like that.
minus 900 for a double-double. So clearly you're not going to do that. You're not going to rock with a triple-double because he doesn't do that. That's not part of his game. If you wanted to go with points and rebounds, you got to get up to 42.5. And really you're getting it at like minus 110, minus 115. So for the 10 cents or the 5 cents, I'd rather play it safer with the points at the 28.5. The rebounds are set at 14.5. A little bit too large for what I want to do there. I'm out on the rebound number. Just give me the points at 28.5.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, so we all know about the Ja Morant issues, right? He's gone for a while, and we have no idea if and when he's coming back to the Memphis Grizzlies. Yesterday, I told you, start paying attention to Tyus Jones. So I'm looking at some of the numbers for Tyus Jones. If you want to go with his points, which he had 25 of those against the Clippers on Sunday, 15.5 is a number I believe that he will top. I think he's going to be closer to 20 tonight, minus 115 on FanDuel. I'm going to give you one more again because I'm trying to give you some plus money value here. I've already given you 2 plus money. Let me give you a third plus money. One of my top value plays of the day. Tyus Jones over 1.5 steals, plus 105 is the best I could find on BetMGM. Had 5 steals in his last game, averages 1 steal per contest. And remember, that's in limited time as the backup point guard. Now he's going to be out there 26, 28, 30, 32 minutes, whatever it may be. I think he gets 2 steals, maybe even 3 or 4. So give me over 1.5 at plus 105.
All right. What of all the plays? Holiday, Robinson, Curry, Kyrie, Davis, the value play, Tyus Jones, and Tyus Jones over 15.5 points. What is your best play of the night?
I think my best play of the night is going to be the Drew Holiday over 2.5 3-pointers. I feel really confident about him pulling that off against Orlando. My favorite play is Tyus Jones, just because it's a little bit zigging while other people are zagging, trying to find like the 15.5 points. I think it's a given. I think slam it home unless he gets in foul trouble. Slam that home. The steals is something that we try to like. I've been picking my spots with steals and blocks, and I've been pretty successful with it this year. So I would say the steals is my favorite play because it's a fun one. It's a little bit different, but the best play is Drew Holiday.
All right, I'm going to give you one. We don't have Sean Zerillo is going to join us. We're going to right after the timeout, and we'll chat with him. Going to give you one NHL play tonight that I like. We're going to go down to Florida, Panthers and Vegas Golden Knights. I like the over 6.5 goals in the game. They met, I think, about 15 games ago in Vegas. Florida lost the matchup 4-2. You look at it, the Panthers are averaging, on average, right around 3.4 goals per game. Vegas is averaging a tad over 3 goals per game. I understand that's where you get to the 6.5. However, you look at Vegas' style of play. They're offensive-minded. You're seeing scoring go tick up here in the second half of the National Hockey League, a little bit more wide open. We could talk about the brilliance of Connor McDavid. Once again, another 2-goal night last night, including 1 goal, which was unbelievable. Ridiculous. Like just an all-world goal. It's unbelievable. But I'll give you one NHL play that I love. I'll have some more tomorrow. But one NHL play that I really like tonight, I'm going to take the over Vegas and Florida tonight, over 6.5 goals. Check your books. I think the last I checked on FanDuel was sitting right around minus 125, minus 130. So check it, but I do like that over 6.5. I think it's going to be a high scoring affair down in South Beach.
Quick is not starting tonight, correct?
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
no.
he was this weekend. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't believe so. So even if right. So I like that matchup. And listen, McDavid, when you are through the amount of games that he has played this year, when you are and we all understand how great McDavid is, but the only players through this amount of games for Edmonton that have scored more points has been Gretzky, Lemieux, and Yager.
Yeah.
That's it. It's pretty good class.
He's got 124 points through the 62 games or whatever, and his career high. He already beat his career high, and he did that last year in.
He's got 53 goals.
So he's on pace for 67 goals.
Right?
Can we get a 3-goal game mixed in there at some point to get us closer to 70? You think he gets 70?
I think he's got a shot. Yeah,
right. Because it's not like they can start limiting his time. They need him to play.
No, correct. So I think he's going to get to 70 goals.
Oh God, I want that to happen so badly.
Like watching him skate is just amazing.
Yeah.
Like I wonder what he looked like when he was like 9, 10, 7, 8. Like was he just Like, I'm curious, like, that young, what did they all just know when he was that young?
Probably someone like him, you knew.
You think so?
I would think so. Like, don't we hear all the stuff? Like Jack Hughes was a guy that when he was like 12 or 13, people were already starting to talk about like all the Hughes brothers were going to be NHL players.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, you're probably right. I don't know.
I'm trying to like, cross it over. Like, all right, so how about we take it back almost an hour ago when we talked about Arch Manning, right? Like, barring an injury or anything like that, like we've been hearing about, and I know his name carries more weight because of his family.
Don't you think his name carries more weight?
Yeah.
Because the Mannings are everywhere.
Yeah. And the same. I guess it would be the same way as like Brian.
Well, I guess
right?
the thing would be, we talk about it all the time, the AAU circuit's basketball, right? You hear about guys like you heard. I mean, he became a pretty good pro, but you started hearing about OJ Mayo when he was 12.
I remember him as a freshman at ABCD camp, the youngest kid playing with all the superstars, and he was excellent.
Yeah. So, like,
I mean, I guess on a baseball standpoint, Bryce Harper would fit that bill.
Probably, yeah. Harper, you heard about when it was.
But past that, I don't remember another baseball player that we heard about at like 15 that then ended up being a Major League Baseball star.
You know who's joining us next? He's a star, Sean Zerillo. Action
Since
Network.
he was 15, he's been a star.
No doubt, absolutely. He's going to join us next. He's going to join the conversation. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
Talk about your picks and your fantasy teams on Better Sports Network.
The importance of checking out the site that you're playing on. Default rankings of these sites. A lot of times they don't get updated. I know from experience. I used to write default rankings for the NFBKC, the basketball version of the NFBC. I'd write these default rankings in June for the NBA, before the NBA draft, before free agency opened up. And guess what? I was never asked to write an update article or update the default rankings. This happens a lot. Maybe if there's something obvious, it gets updated. Aaron Judge, for some reason, hurts his back. Maybe they make that change. Just maybe. But you don't know that. And that's why it's just so important that you show up to your draft room or you do that pre-draft prep. We're all busy. We know we're about to devote a lot of time to our fantasy baseball drafts. Why not spend the extra 20 to 25 minutes to invest properly in your team, to go and see which of those players are way down default rankings? They're going to be different on all of these sites, and you're going to be looking at them and going, maybe their analysts think a certain player who shouldn't be in the top 100, who should be maybe even not even the top 200, will be in that top 100. You got to check that out. You got to know where you're playing, just like you got to know your format when you sign up for the league. It's just so crucial, and people just skip right over it. You think it's cool to show up to the draft room 3 minutes before the draft. Well, number one, it's not cool because the commissioner's trying to make sure it's organized, especially me, who runs auctions. You can't, it's one thing if someone doesn't show up for the snake draft. Oh, well, doesn't ruin it for everyone. Auctions, you can't have someone not show up. Auto bidding, auto auctioning, it ruins the sanctity of those drafts here, which is why I always recommend, hey, make it easy on your commissioner. Don't make them send those texts there. It's annoying. You shouldn't have to do that. Don't wait till the last minute and get in there about 20, 25 minutes before so you can just look up and down the entire default rankings list so you can make a queue out of that, Ron. And the reason I keep saying this is because people still show up 2-3 minutes before the draft, and that's it. In fact, in one of my auctions, people were asking me where certain players were, and I go, did you search their name? No, I just got in. Well, that's no excuse right there. That's your own fault. I mean, when you're organized, so when you're a hard person to ask here.
You're getting those questions. This is your preschool league, right? People don't know how to search player names.
People freak out. They don't think. That's the problem. Because they show up 2 minutes before the draft. That's why.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern on Better Sports Network.
West Side, Bad Boy.
Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
Sean Zerillo joins us now, Action Network. Good morning, Sean. How you doing, bud?
Doing great. Got some competitive baseball games to bet on tonight. Placed my first baseball bets in quite some time this morning, I guess since Game 6 of the World Series. So,
well, let's start there. What do you love? What do you like?
Yeah, I projected Cuba. I wouldn't really make more than about a 58% favorite against anybody in their group. This Cuban team is not as talented as the Cuban team we've seen in the past. A lot of their young talent that would have gone to their professional league got sucked out by major league teams, went into their prospect systems. Guys like Miguel Vargas, who you're going to see on the Dodgers this year, they don't have that pipeline in their own home system anymore. Those guys were allowed to come back. A lot of them didn't. Only Luis Robert did. So this Cuban team does not stack up to the other Cuban teams we've seen in the past. A little bit of a mystery because we don't really have a ton of competitive data on these guys. But I basically power rank every team in their group between 7th and 13th. It's the middle of the table in this group. It's very bunched up. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these 5 teams came out. So Cuba around the Netherlands, I made around minus 132 for tonight. You can bet the Dutch to around plus 145. I think that's fine. I like Cuba's pitching staff just a little bit more, their defense just a little bit more. But other than that, I don't see a huge advantage necessarily for Cuba. Again, I'm going off of my best available data. This is not the Dominican Republic playing against Venezuela, where I have 25 major league players to base data off of. I'm doing to the best of my abilities. I think the better bet, though, might be the over. I saw Kevin Davis on Twitter, who I used to work with, posted something about the humidity in the stadium in Taichung today, that he thinks the total is going to go up purely because of the weather. Weather neutral for me, I made this total around 8.7. I think these pitching staffs are terrible. I think the pitching in all of Pool A is really bad. And I think it's actually interesting for Chinese Taipei, 1, because they're playing at home, but 2, because it's a very offensive-driven league, and they're not used to seeing, the major league quality pitching that we have here, the higher velocities. But if they're in a group with very bad pitching and they're playing at home, I think Chinese Taipei has a chance to make a run of that group. Not something I thought about yesterday, the fact that they are home and get that home field advantage, so to speak. But I definitely did look at the fact that their pitching is so bad in that group that if they were ever going to advance from a pool, this would be the one. So do like Netherlands in the over tonight. Haven't seen lines yet for the games that are going to take place on Wednesday morning, Wednesday overnight, but we do have a couple bets in so far.
We're going to look through each pool, but just from a broad standpoint of this, if someone was trying to bet WBC and clearly, there isn't as much data out there as you said, right? It is a misconception that you just go towards the teams with most of the Major League Baseball players and bet those teams?
I think so, yeah. Going towards the team with most of the Major League stars, right? Just going with the Netherlands, like they have Xander Bogaerts on the team, but when I projected out the entirety of Team Italy's roster as compared to the Netherlands roster, even though the Netherlands has some better star MLB players, some more recognizable names, Italy's balance of MLB players, particularly like the number of arms that they have in their bullpen that have major league experience, they sort of projected out a little bit better to me. So Italy doesn't have as much name brand talent. I mean, they have Vinny Pasquantino. Everybody loves Vinny. I think Vinny's going to be a star. This could be a breakout time for him in the WBC, especially if he gets Italy to advance. But, it's not necessarily like just the teams who have the major league players, because your Koreas, your Japan, those teams stack up in the top 5 with anybody, in my opinion. And really, their only major league players are Ohtani, Lars Nootbaar, and Tommy Edman, and Ha-Seong Kim amongst them. So, yeah, the Japanese, the Korean leagues, they certainly stack up to the higher levels of what we would quantify as American minor league baseball. Japanese probably more quad A, and Korean baseball probably more in that AA, AAA range. But doesn't mean these teams can't be competitive. And once you get to a single elimination bracket, literally anything can happen. Japan's won this tournament twice.
Sean, when you look at the top of the market in terms of who can win it, who do you favor over the others? Like, who do you think is coming in with the best chance of winning the WBC?
Yeah, I think the United States has the best team. That actually surprised me. I thought I was going to project the DR as the better team once I put everything into the model. Them losing Vlad Guerrero Jr. this week may have been the difference, because I do have the USA slightly ahead of the DR. I rank our pitching like 1/10, of an ERA run better, 3.6 versus 3.7. Offense slightly better. The big difference for me, though, is the defense. We have a lot of defense and speed, and we're going to see the old rules that we're accustomed to, shifting, smaller base sizes, things of that nature. So defensive shifting going to be very important, and I think our players are a bit more accustomed to shifting and grow up that more frequently than teams like Japan and Korea do. So I think that's an advantage for us, but particularly against the Dominican Republic, who a lot of people view as the true favorite in this tournament. I have them as the second best team. Their corner outfielders, which is Eloy Jimenez, Teoscar Hernandez, Juan Soto, all below average defenders, below average athletes. And then Gary Sanchez behind the plate, we all know is an absolute wreck defensively. So we get Mookie Betts, Trey Turner on the base pass. We're going to be double stealing. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff against that team with Gary Sanchez or Francisco Mejia behind the dish. We're going to absolutely torture them offensively with our base running and our speed. And then on the defensive end, I think we're going to take outs away from them. So Team USA not only is the best team on paper for me, they also have the weakest group. They should be the safest team to advance to the second round. They really have no serious challenger in their own pool. But then once they get to the knockout stages, they're probably going to have to beat the other top 3 teams in succession. Venezuela, my number 4 team, Japan, my number 3 team, and then DR in the finals, my number 2 team. So we're probably going to qualify Team USA, but then once we qualify, we probably have the most difficult path because we have to go through the other top 3 teams aside from ourselves. The other teams that I rank as the best teams, the DR, as I said, but I do put the 4th and 6th best teams in the tournament, Venezuela, and then Puerto Rico, who's made the finals the past 2 times, in that group with them. So if the DR ends up losing their pool, wouldn't be surprised. If they get eliminated by Venezuela and Puerto Rico, I wouldn't be shocked either. Those teams stack up really well with them, and I'm really not going to make Dominican Republic more than about a 60, 62% favorite against the likes of Puerto Rico in an average game. So I think the DR is vulnerable just because of their group that they're in. I think USA is safe. I think Japan and Korea are safe because they're in a very light group, 2 top 5 teams and then 3 bottom 5 teams who basically you have almost no major league data on, but I would be very surprised if they advance. So those 2 teams seem very safe to advance. And then Korea and Japan relative to that pool A, I would favor them in any of the crossover quarterfinal matchups. Both of those teams, I would make around 54% at minimum against Cuba. So I think Korea, the team to target, certainly because I expect them to advance to the next round and then have a game where they're going to be favored in that quarterfinal matchup. So I think Korea has a pretty safe path to the semifinals. They're out there at some good numbers right now. And then Venezuela, I mentioned as well. I think they're an elite team. They stack up with the DR, with Japan, with USA. I really wouldn't make them below about 55, 60% in any matchup, depending on pitching. But yeah, Venezuela for me, Korea, the underrated teams. And if I reseeded these purely based on my power rankings, Venezuela would have been a 1 seed. So the fact that they're the second team in their group and they have Puerto Rico in there with them, that's just what makes it a really, really tough pool for the Dominican Republic.
Betting World Baseball Classics, similar to betting like World Cup, picking teams to advance out of their pools and then go forward. Am I correct about that?
A little bit, yeah. I haven't seen as many odds for teams to advance, like just, getting a market to advance. You can bet teams to win their pool. You do have the round robin with these 4 pools of 5 teams. And obviously the USA is heavily favored. They're minus 400. I think there may be value on the USA at minus 400. We're going to be 65% or higher in each of our games. And that's assuming Julio Urias starts for Mexico and they don't use Urias against one of their other opponents. So yeah, I think USA minus 400 to win their pool, pretty safe. If you want to parlay that up with some other things, but the other 3 pools, I took a shot on some long shots. Pool A, I like Italy. I mentioned I view them pretty similarly to the Netherlands, except they're double the price. They're plus 600. The Netherlands is plus 280. And Cuba's around even money, plus 115. So I'm betting the Netherlands tonight. As I mentioned, I will be betting Italy against the Netherlands and Italy against Cuba, I imagine as well, based on the pre-tournament futures odds. But yeah, Italy and the Netherlands basically stack up. Similar to me, I think Italy should be closer to about plus 350 than plus 400. And there's even a 6-1 out there on them. Pool B, I mentioned I like Korea. It's a 2-team group. And this is why it's my favorite bet, because it's a 2-team group. I expect them both, Korea and Japan, to beat up on Australia, Czech Republic, and China. So you're basically getting 4-1 at one book, 4.5-1 on Korea to win 1 game against Japan. They would have to hold serve against the other 3 teams in their group, but they should both smash those teams. So that's why I like doing this power ranking, because I knew that there was a gap between Korea, Japan, and the other 3 teams in their group. I didn't think about the fact that it was 2 top 5 teams, 2 bottom 5, or 3 bottom 5 teams, and it's a 2-team group. We know who is advancing, but the winner is going to come down to 1 game, and we could get 4-1 on the underdog when the real line in that game is probably going to be about plus 200, maybe, assuming some combination of Ohtani and Sasaki pitches for Japan. So love Korea to win their group. And then I mentioned as well Venezuela, 4-1, Dominican Republic in that group. Wouldn't be surprised if Puerto Rico won it either, but I would not lay the price. You can get as low as about -275 in Dominican Republic. That's way too juiced, considering how I would project Venezuela and Puerto Rico in games against them. So,
Sean, what have you taken? Do you like the WBC as an event? And like, what have you learned from, past, WBC experiences coming in? I know every scenario is different, but, what do you take from, and what have you learned from past WBCs that you use in this one?
I think the trend is that the rest of the world is getting better at baseball. I think people are surprised that Japan won the first 2 World Baseball Classics, and Team USA did not have an easy time winning the last one. I believe we played a lot of close games. I remember Torrey Hunter robbing a home run. There was a home run robbery that we had at some point that proved a big difference in a game. So the fact that we haven't seen this in 6 years, I think is going to it's created for me, I guess anyway, more anticipation, because I want to see how J-Rod stacks up on the international stage, how Ohtani looks playing for Japan now that he goes back and he's gone from being a Japanese star to probably the best baseball player in the world, if not the best to ever walk the planet. So much has changed about the baseball landscape in the past 6 years relative to what people knew about the KBO. KBO had never been on ESPN or on national television. People were seeking out CPBL, Taiwanese baseball on Twitter. So we're familiar with some of these players as a Major League Baseball culture, Major League fans. They have more familiarity with these Japanese players, Taiwanese players. They're more curious to see if there's any guys on Team Cuba who might eventually come over to the United States and play professionally. So I think we all have a greater understanding of the internationality of this game and the fact that fewer American players are getting to the big leagues, and it is becoming more of a global game. So it's cool. We're 5 years or 5 iterations into this now. I think when it first started, a lot of people wanted to make fun of it. But I think the more we go, the more people are going to get interested in it. And the proliferation of betting is only going to help
Well,
that.
Sean,
So
I want to follow up.
that is the lens I'm always going to see it through.
Is there an international player that isn't in the majors that you're looking forward to seeing in this WBC?
Yeah, there's a few on Japan and Korea. Roki Sasaki, certainly from Japan. I believe he threw, back-to-back no-hitters in the MVP last year. Tetsudo Yamada on Japan has always been called the Mike Trout of Japan. He's an infielder, but he's phenomenally talented. It'll be interesting to see him on a big stage. There's an outfielder on Korea whose name is slipping my mind right now, but he's very likely to come over to the major leagues in the very near future. So, we saw Kodai Senga sign with the Mets this year and sign a big contract. There's a lot of players in Japan and Korea who could play at this level. Ha-Seong Kim came over, kind of struggled in his rookie year, was much better last year. And then even particularly towards the end for the Padres, there were people who thought he should have been their leadoff hitter in the playoffs. So there's stars in Korea, there's stars in Japan that want to stay domestically that may not necessarily want to come over and leave their families and learn a new culture and come play here. But these guys are certainly capable of competing at the major league level. We just don't get to see as many of them as maybe we could because they want to play domestically. But absolutely, these rosters are loaded. And I do think that's a reason why Korea, Japan have serious chances of winning this tournament. Again, Japan's won it twice. Like, that shouldn't surprise anybody. But Korea, with how the KBO is leveled up, with all of that money that they got from ESPN, with all of the American baseball executives that went over there to help run teams and help improve their players and player development, there's a lot of reasons why the KBO has improved, the MPB has improved in recent years since the pandemic. So, yeah, I think these Asian countries are going to continue to be extremely competitive, and the same goes for Chinese Taipei as well.
I'm not sure if you can bet on this. You tell me if you can. Can you bet on the MVP of the WBC?
Not anywhere I've seen, no.
Okay.
No, obviously I would go with somebody from one of the 3 favorites, though. I mean, depending on where you look, USA, Japan, or the Dominican Republic are favored. All of them you can get if you shop around at around plus 350. All of them are as low as like plus 275 at other books. So pick the team. If you do see an MVP market, pick the team you like, pick the player you like at good odds from them. But it would be those 3 teams I would choose from.
Okay.
Sean, any correlation with players that compete in the WBC and I know it's been 6 years, but then being able to use that experience, because it's clearly more competitive in nature than it is spring training, early on in teams early on in regular seasons, then maybe they get a little bit of bump up in performance if you're looking at player props in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, not something I have information on or that I've even looked into, Moose, but something I have been thinking about with regard to the new rules. These guys who aren't in the WBC are getting used to the pitch clock. They're getting used to hitting and fielding without the shift. All the players in the WBC do not have a pitch clock. They're still going to be playing defense with the shift. So are the star players going to be behind the depth players in terms of being accustomed to the new rules? That's very possible, actually.
Yeah.
So maybe something I've been thinking about at the start of the season, if you see star players struggling, if you see guys struggling who played in the World Baseball Classic, it could be because they are adjusting latest and last to the new rules because they were playing with the old rules for a month or 2 weeks in the World Baseball Classic. So something that crossed my mind that it may actually impact the star players more than everybody else, but also star players are less likely to be impacted by change than other people in general. So yeah, maybe it even is out, but yeah, I would definitely look out for that. Like stars being frustrated by the pitch clock early in the season.
Sean, last one for me would be over to Major League Baseball. Would be anything since last we had you on that you jumped on futures wise, because you're great with this kind of stuff, breaking down that you love in baseball that you've been looking at over the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
No, nothing new I've jumped on. I've fully kind of switched my mind to World Baseball Classic. Somebody did bring up yesterday, though, on our AL Central podcast, because White Sox under is my favorite bet. The White Sox are even money to miss the playoffs. And the fact that we have this expanded schedule now, White Sox under 83.5, my favorite bet. And I go lower with it. But the fact that we have this expanded schedule, fewer divisional games. So they're not going to get as many games to beat up on the Tigers and the Royals, 6 games fewer against each, 6 games fewer against both the Twins and the Guardians as well. But that just means more games against the loaded AL East, more games against the AL West, where I think everybody except Oakland is improving. So the AL Central, the NL Central have struggled for the past few years in the playoffs. They really haven't gone very far, haven't won many series, even though during the pandemic when they were all playing against each other, I believe 6 of the 10 teams made the playoffs in that expanded playoff, and then nobody advanced. So the AL Central, the NL Central teams, I have difficulty seeing them getting wild cards this year. I would bet on the teams you think are not going to win the divisions to miss the playoffs. If you're getting plus money on them, and plus money on the White Sox to miss the playoffs, I think is a pretty sharp bet right now. Not something I'm placed yet, but something I'm definitely going to.
Before we let you go, I was doing my rookie of the year number crunching last night. So Grayson Rodriguez, 9-1 odds, most books, probably will be in the Baltimore rotation, has battled injuries. He's a big dude, 6'5", 23-year-old. How do you like him as a potential AL rookie of the year?
Yeah, he's one of the tickets that I have. I mentioned Volpe is my favorite bet amongst those, but Grayson certainly falls into the conversation in terms of average production per playing time. If he gets enough innings pitched, he's going to rank right up there with the league leaders, Gunnar Henderson, with the league leaders in terms of wins above replacement total at the end of the season. And that is largely who wins the rookie of the year, unfortunately, is just who accumulates the most wins above replacement over the course of the year. So Grayson is a ticket I have. I think I got him at 12-1 or 11-1.
Nice.
9-1. I'm starting to think about passing. I would probably want 10-1 or better, but he should get the innings. The problem is pitchers never win rookie of the year. So
yeah, it hasn't happened since 2016, right? With Fulmer. Yeah.
Yeah. And, even Rodgers and Jonathan India, it seemed like Rodgers had that award locked up all year. And then India just kind of got close to him at the end in terms of win above replacement. And he was almost a unanimous pick. So these voters just always default towards hitters because they play every day. But I think Grayson's at 10-1 or better, I wouldn't argue against it. He's phenomenally talented.
Sean, you're awesome. We appreciate it. Good luck with all your WBC plays. Appreciate the knowledge, and we'll get you on again real soon. We appreciate it.
Best of luck, guys. Enjoy the baseball. Hope to talk to you again soon.
You got it, Sean Zerillo, Action Network. He's fantastic. He just is. I mean, you know what? He actually got me into the WBC now.
Oh, you weren't? Oh, I'm in.
I wasn't. No, well, no, I really wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't all locked into it, but I'm now. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to play Korea now.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah,
I always find events like this are cool because I feel like I'm going to see a few players that I've either never heard of or I've heard things about but never really seen play. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, and that's what led to the question, because I couldn't tell you that I'm up on all the international players. So
no, it's not your job to be. I mean,
yeah, and to ask Sean like who, and he's kind of, and he's basically down dirty. He knows it all. So to ask him what players you're looking forward to watching, that clearly could play on the major league level, in the WBC, and he gave you a bunch of them. I'm fired up about it. I can't wait. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun tournament.
I was mentioning the Rookie of the Year stuff. So last night, my house, everyone was sleeping in my house. It was suddenly like 11:30 at night, and I just felt like doing some number crunching. So I ended up doing like another 2 pages of betting notes, all on Rookie of the Year stuff.
Yeah, your energy level's crazy. By like 11:30 at night, like I've had a.
Well, no. So everyone went to sleep. It was like 11 o'clock. Came downstairs, caught a quick workout, did a quick 15 minutes. Yesterday was a double, so I was able to sneak in 40 minutes in the afternoon, another 15, 20 minutes at night. Then I was wide awake, crunched the numbers for about an hour, hit the sack around 1, was up around 6:30 this morning. We're ready to go.
I know the energy just doesn't stop. You're a bundle of energy. It's amazing.
I mean, why not? Let's go.
No, I give you a lot of credit. So what do you have? What's on the to-do list today?
I got to run I got to go to the bank today.
No. In terms of running numbers, like what do you have to do prep-wise for MLB today?
So I don't have to do anything today. I want to at some point today get back into. I want to look at my win totals again because I have a few teams that I'm monitoring right now.
You
for
agree
your
with
win
Sean
totals.
about the White Sox under 83.5?
I like that one. Yeah, I mean, I don't like a lot of the unders. I just don't like rooting for unders. I find them, almost counterintuitive to what I want from sports. But yeah, that's a good one. I like the Cubs over. If I'm going to go with a Chicago team that I like the Cubs over. What was the number I had? I'll give me 1 second. I had it as over 77.5. They were 74 wins last year. You bring in Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner's going to move to second base. Like, there's a few reasons why. The only under that I do like, actually, I like the under 60.5 wins for the Nationals. They're going to be god awful.
Yeah, they're going to be dreadful. Like they might win like 55 games.
Yeah. Moose, can you do this read because I don't want to do it because it's going to make me cry?
What? Sure.
The CAA read. Go ahead. Can you do it because it's going to make me sad?
Well, watch the CAA Conference Championship game with us tonight at 7 Eastern and compete in our live Q&A contest on the Better Sports Network app. It's Charleston versus UNC Wilmington on BetterCast. Watch, play, and win prizes by answering predictive questions about the game while having fun chatting with our community in real time. Join us at BetterCast on the Better Sports Network app tonight at 7 Eastern. Tour Junkies will air on bettersports.com and on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch at better.com.
Yeah, CAA championship. Yay.
Baby J with a bet tonight in the NBA. Knicks, Bucks, Wiz, money line, parlay, plus 104. Knicks, Bucks, Wiz.
Who do I'm blanking on who the Wizards have tonight.
I don't know who the Wizards have.
At the Pistons. Yeah, that's winnable.
Yeah, it's winnable.
I would like a little bit more bang for my buck at plus 104 for that many legs.
Well, there you go. Baby J, you're on record. Keith, I'm sorry about Hofstra.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm sorry about Hofstra.
You want me to cry now?
No. You're not going to cry. We've already got that.
Yeah, no,
I apologize. I was